When these dads meet world, watching Boy Meets World. We grew up on the show, now we have kids and host a podcast. We watch each episode and then share our thoughts and grades. When these dads meet world.
They want you to take the roles.
We do want you to take those roles. Welcome back, good-looking people. This is Dads Meet World. Normally, we talk about Boy Meets World and all the things we love and sometimes despise about it. But today, we thought we'd take a step back and bring some love into this world, Brett, in the only way that we know how, and that's through a bracket.
That's right. I need some...
I needed some music in there.
I know. I'll have to add it in post.
Yes. We'll pretend like it all worked out perfectly. Thank you, Brett. So we went through for the dads and the moms, and this was a little more painful to get the information out of everyone. Feel like someone's going to make their entrance and throw a clothesline now.
All right.
So we went through the four of us, the dads and the moms, and discussed what are our favorite rom-coms. And the parameters that we put into place was it needs to be equally funny as it is romantic. It can't be too over the top romantic. We're not dealing with no notebooks or nothing like that. And it can't be too much into the comedy realm as much as I love the love story, say, in a Mr. Deeds or what's another good Adam Sandler? I was thinking of Happy Gilmore. Yes, good love stories, but you're not there for the love. You're there for the story.
Oh,
the funnies.
I watch Happy Gilmore for the comedy. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, and the main thing is that love has to win out the day. So it could be more in the realm of fantasy, but excuse me. But if a sword is able to take down the bad guy, well, that's not good. It has to be love. Love has to be the thing that brings him down. And we could have a sports movie on here, but if the game is over by a touchdown pass or whatever, that's not winning by love. You win by love by saying, hey, even though we lost, we have love right here. So
in other words, love is an important ingredient.
Yes, exactly. How many times are we going to say love in this one, Brett?
I'm not going to bother counting. That's going to be too much work for me.
So this is technically post-Valentine's Day, but the month of February is the month of love, as we all know. So
yes, it is.
We'll go through our list. We have two separate brackets, of course, that will culminate into the one. Brett, we have a pre-millennium bracket, which consists of movies from as early as let me double check. Hold on, let me double check it. The earliest movie we have is 1987. We actually have two of them.
Okay.
So the earliest we go is 1987 to 2000. And then we have a split. And from 2001 to today is how we have this divided up. So each of the movies that are represented are either ones that we really love and have to have it on here. But then we have a couple thrown in here that are really, really good movies and deserve to be on this list. And oftentimes were ones that, as my wife and I were going through our list, we'd go like, ooh, we love that one, but we also love this one. So we thought it was fair to add some of those in there too to kind of fill in the gaps, Brett. So, Brett, any thoughts before we get started?
I'm just ready for love.
Well, good. Brett, would you like to start pre-millennium or post-millennium?
Well, let's shake it up. Let's go post-millennium.
All right, post-millennium. We can do that. Now, here's where it gets funky, Brett. Because we have, in our two brackets, one bracket has 13 participants. The
Hmm.
other bracket, and the one we're going to start on, has 17 participants.
I thought this was supposed to be a shorter episode than the other brackets.
We'll have less to talk about for sure. Let's be honest. The Christmas bracket we did, there's so much love we had for those movies, and it was painful some of the decisions we had to make. I think this one's going to go a lot faster.
Okay.
So, starting Brett in the post millennium bracket, our number one seed is Crazy Stupid Love,
Okay.
starring Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Julianne Moore, and Emma Stone. It is what I'll call a 2010s classic for sure. We'll talk more about that movie as we go along. But Brett, our first one, which is going to be interesting, and I'm glad we're starting here, because our first combatants are Shallow Hal, ranked 17, of course, also ranked 30th of all our competitors, versus He's Not That Into You.
Shallow Hal, and He's Not That Into You.
So, Brett, you want to tell the good-looking people what Shallow Hal is and why it's on here? Why do you have it on here, Brett?
Shallow Hal is a very Hal is a very okay. He's shallow, all right. He's only into women for their looks. So he has a I can't remember if it's a hex or some sort of through some sort of movie magic. He's only able to see inner beauty, and he falls for a woman who he can only see her inner beauty. But it is a Farrelly Brothers comedy, so outwardly she is a very, very large and very outwardly what most of society would find unattractive. But he falls desperately in love with her because of what is inside, and it's a very low hanging fruit comedy, but it shows there is a heart to it that shows what that there is important to see the beauty inside beyond just what the outer.
So he meets Tony Robbins. That's right. In
That's
an elevator.
what it is. Yes.
And he talks him into only seeing people inward beauty.
Yeah, that's what it was. I couldn't remember. It's been so long since I've seen it.
So He's Not That Into You, Brett, is a collective story. Excuse me. Oh, I'll just pull it up on IMDb. There's so many stars in it. The big ones are Ben Affleck, Jennifer Aniston, if I can remember how to spell. Jennifer Goodwin. There are literally so many people. Jennifer Connelly. Giant jerk face. What's his name?
Giant jerk face.
Bradley Cooper. He plays a jerk. He's not actually a jerk. And then future Black Widow star Scarlett Johansson's in this. So there are so many people it's hard to keep up with. But it just kind of goes through the different scopes of what it means to, start a relationship, be in a relationship, and how to interact with the opposite sex, I guess. And what I always loved about this is the little vignettes they have in between. They just have like a random person like doing an interview. And I've never understood it, but my favorite is this old lady who goes through and she's like, well, my first husband, well, he was cheating. And then my second husband, well, he was cheating. And the third one, he was cheating. And the fourth one, I tried so desperately to catch him, but he eventually, I found out that, at his funeral, I found out he was cheating. But if I have to say, I am by far the best cheater of them all. Throughout all of my husbands, I had boyfriends constantly, and they never found out.
Oh my!
So it's one of those it's probably one of the last real none of this should be taken serious. Nothing truly profound is happening, but hey, there is love at the end, and people make choices, some good or bad, and love is complicated, Brett.
Yep.
So, Brett, between Shallow Hal and He's Not That Into You, which one you going with?
I'm probably going to go with He's Not That Into You. Shallow Hal just hasn't held up.
What?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah. I don't know if I wanted to bring the wheel of fortune out so early. It wasn't my friend
That's
last
fair.
time.
That's fair. I will say, I think you're gonna like this one I made. I made this one special for this one, Brad.
Oh.
All right, so here we go. Yeah, so He's Not That Into You. That moves on. That's on my list of favorites. So, all right. So next up, we have My Big Fat Greek Wedding versus Wedding Crashers. Wow, 2 wedding movies.
Ah,
Brett, would you like to describe Wedding Crashers? You know,
sure.
the romantic comedy.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson are a couple of they're basically playboys who like to crash weddings and find dates who they will then bed and move on from until they wind up stuck in a lie and spending the weekend with a family of women that they've met at a wedding and eventually realize that they've fallen for these women
Little
and
Icarus situation.
yes, hijinks ensue throughout, but in the end, especially for Owen's character, he falls for the woman and that he has been lying to, and the movie allows for love to win out in the end.
Mm-hmm.
What about My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Big Fat Greek Wedding is actually still the top grossing romantic comedy of all time, which is crazy. Because I did look up the box office for this, and there's been no movie that's come up close to this whatsoever. Although I will say the market for rom-coms has gone downhill probably since this movie came out. So,
I'm not surprised.
but starring
yeah,
Nia Vardalos, I think that's how you say her name, right?
Bartalos.
Vardalos,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
And John Corbett. They're 2 people who should not be together. Kind of a swan situation where she doesn't believe in herself and decides, by gum, I'm going to get educated. And she starts, trying, for lack of better wording. And a gentleman who didn't fully notice her before starts to notice her. Actually, he does notice her in the first scene. She just didn't want to see that. So, regardless, these 2 crazy kids, they end up falling in love. The big fat Greek family has some issues they got to work through. My favorite part of the movie is that Ian Miller, as John Corbett's character, he's trying so hard to be accepted into this family, and he tries to learn Greek, and the brother and cousin keep messing with him and telling him the wrong things. And I don't want to get us demonetized. We don't not demonetize. I don't want
No,
us
we
to
don't have
get
to
in
worry about
trouble,
that.
Brett, by some of the things that they have him say, but just so funny. And Joey Fatone is in this movie. So yeah, it's such a fun movie. It's a ball. It's one where love wins out, and very romantic and very comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I will say that in case I don't get to say this, but every time our cat goes outside and he decides to scurry back in, when we bring him in, we go, "Look, everybody! Look who's back again!" If you know, you know. So, Brett, between Wedding Crashers and My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which way you going?
I'm going Wedding Crashers. I honestly was not the biggest fan of My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Ooh,
I
this
always
is going to
felt
be
it was
interesting.
overhyped.
My
Kelly
Big Fat Greek
Kelly
Wedding is
feels
mine.
Kelly felt betrayed, but I always felt it was overhyped.
All right, you ready for this, Brett?
I'm ready. Nice.
So there are 30 spots for each of us. Now, I will ask you before we spin, do we want to establish that if a spot wins, then that spot leaves, or do we want to just keep it 30 throughout?
Let's just keep it 30 throughout.
Okay, that's what I thought too. I
Keep it simple.
just wanted to double check on what you were thinking. So, are you ready, Brett?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Let's spin that wheel.
Spin that wheel.
No!
Wedding Crashers wins. A Cinderella story for sure.
Yeah. That's upsetting. All right, Brett. We got She's the Man versus Love Actually. You want to talk about Love Actually?
Yeah, because I don't know if I've ever seen She's the Man. And I think I've only seen Love Actually one time. Love Actually is a series of it's almost an anthology of a bunch of different love stories. I think one of them's the prime minister falling for his secretary. One is a man falling for his best friend's wife. One is who's Liam Neeson's character fall for?
Maria Shriver at the end.
Yeah, it's a bunch of different shorter stories of
his love story is the love story between a stepfather and a son.
Yes, it's a bunch of different stories that attempt to put across the different kinds of love, basically. And
Yep.
I'll leave it at that.
Yep, it's like He's Not That Into You, but in Christmas style, and they're British.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. She's the Man stars Amanda Bynes and Channing Tatum. When her school soccer team gets eliminated, she decides to go to or play for the boys. The boys reject her, so she decides to go to her brother's school. These are these are like very rich, snobby kids, by the way. So she decides to go to her brother's school and try out for their soccer team. And she learns that, well, she's really good as a girl soccer player, but she really has to work hard to be good as a boy soccer player. And Channing Tatum, who, fun fact, never played soccer before being in this movie, he has to teach her how to play soccer. They start to fall in love. It's based on a Shakespeare play. I'm blanking on which one it is.
According to Google, it's Twelfth Night.
Yes, I just saw that. Yes. So, one of the Shakespeare plays. Probably the best part of this movie is when they're at a debutante event and she and like two other girls get into a giant brawl and they're like disturb the event. So it's a quirky, fun high school type of movie. So it's not they're gonna last forever situation, but it's fun. Brett, between Love Actually and She's the Man, which one you going with?
I'm gonna go with She's the Man. I think I've
Yep,
been I think I've been public about my feelings about Love Actually before.
Yep. Yep, that's a good call. How about Sweet Home Alabama versus 51st Dates, Brett?
Ooh.
Which one would you want to talk about?
Let's see. I'll talk about 51st Dates.
I figured.
Yeah. Let's see. 51st Dates. Adam Sandler's character meets and falls for a woman who has a brain injury that only allows that has killed her short-term memory. She cannot form new memories, and so he initially sets out to recreate a new date with her every day so that she meets him and falls for him anew every day.
Mm-hmm.
And he really, by the way, bonus points, Chet Hunter is in this movie.
He is.
There's this big dramatic turn in the movie, and spoiler alert.
You ain't kidding.
Oh yeah, spoiler alert, they do fall and in love and do wind up together.
Wouldn't it be nice if we were older?
But yeah, love does win out and wins over traumatic brain injury.
It does.
Tyler, what about Sweet Home Alabama? You have a
So,
baby. in a
Sweet Home
bar.
Alabama stars Reese Witherspoon, Patrick Dempsey, Josh Lucas, Candace Burke. Classic story of a love triangle where a woman goes off to New York to follow her dreams, makes it big, and apparently has an ex-husband that she never told her fiance about. So she's going to try to get that solved. And we have the bass player from The Thing You Do is in this.
It's this is a Lifetime movie all ready to go.
If there were not famous people in this, mostly Reese Witherspoon, this would have been a Lifetime movie for sure.
Yeah. If this script
there's-
couldn't get the people they wanted, it would be a Lifetime movie.
This movie is just. I'll tell you what. This movie actually launched a pretty decent, famous podcast right now called "Romancing the Pod," which is still in my top 5 of podcasts. But basically, they were talking on another podcast about movies that should be a horror movie, and that Sweet Home Alabama, really, she is the villain of the movie because both of the guys are actually pretty great people, and she is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's one of those kind of trashy, for lack of better wording, feel good movies that let you know that, hey, your life isn't as bad as some other people's.
Yeah.
But this probably should have been in the 90s.
It probably was written in the 90s and just kind of floated around Hollywood for a decade.
Yep. So Brett, 50 First Dates?
Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned that Adam Sandler's in 50 First Dates.
I did. I said Adam Sandler's
Oh.
character. I did not mention that it was Drew Barrymore, the female lead.
Fair. Next up, Brett, we got Fever Pitch versus Hitch.
Oh, man.
I said, this is going to be hard on you.
This is going to be hard on me, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, I'll take Fever Pitch.
All right.
Okay, so in Fever Pitch, we have Jimmy Fallon. Is this Jimmy? This is another Drew Barrymore. Yeah. Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore lead this one. Drew Barrymore is unlucky in love. She finally finds a guy who is normal and actually a great guy, but she meets him in the off season. Turns out he is a huge Red Sox fan and like totally devoted to the team. He's a huge Red Sox fan, and ultimately he has to choose between the Red Sox. Well, he has to choose between the Red Sox and her, and so we get to see love fight that battle.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, very nice.
And we get to see Sweet Caroline finally get its place in the zeitgeist.
It's true. So Hitch is a Will Smith movie. With him is Eva Mendes, Kevin James, Amber Valletta. I think that's how you say your name. But anywho, Will Smith plays a character called Hitch who helps guys who, let's say, maybe has anxiety, probably some depression, don't have confidence, doesn't know how to talk to women. Can we just argue that this might be one of the greatest rom-com trailers to ever drop?
Oh, yes. I would definitely argue that it was.
If you watch the trailer, you're like, yes, I want to watch that movie. Movie's still good. But yeah, he tries to help guys and basically help men to understand that sometimes when you say things, you don't realize how insulting, insensitive, and hurtful you are. And he develops this friendship with Kevin James' character while he is also pursuing Eva Mendes' character. And it's interesting how their relationships flow and around each other. And It really is a good story, and it's one I go back to and still enjoy, even after Will Smith did what he did last year.
Yeah. You got to learn to
So,
separate the art from the artist, you know?
yeah, exactly.
Well,
So, Brett, Fever Pitch or Hitch? Which one are you going with? Would it
I'm
make
going to
your life
have to.
easier if I tell mine first?
Nah, I'm going to have to go with Hitch.
Oh, I'm going Fever Pitch.
Are you? Okay, bring the
Yep.
wheel out.
So let's see. Fever Pitch is number 3 on this bracket.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. It's
I
one of
mean,
my favorites.
I'm not going to cry either way, but
Oh. Yep, there we go. All right, let's bring the wheel out then. Spin the
that
wheel.
wheel. Fever Pitch it is.
As it should be.
All right, I'm not hurt.
I had a feeling.
Yeah. I am not hurt at all by that decision. Sweet.
I mean, they broke the curse.
Bum, bum, bum.
All right, Brett. Here's here's a curveball thrown at you. How about Crazy Rich Asians versus How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days?
All right. Well, I've never seen Crazy Rich Asians.
I had a
And
feeling that's okay. I can talk about
I've
that one.
only seen How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days like once. Like,
Oh,
the
where's your
year it
wife to
came
explain
out.
this one?
I know. I can't. I think I remember enough about it to break it down. Matthew McConaughey and anyway, columnist has decided to write a column about how to lose a guy in 10 days. And the guy that she has picked has been, I believe he's been challenged to not let the next girl get away so easily. So
That he can get a woman to fall in love with him in 10
yes,
days.
that's
So
what
he
it
can
is.
sell.
That he could basically he can sell anything.
Yeah. He
And
can
so
get an
his
account.
challenge is to get a good woman to fall in love with him in 10 days. So they're fighting each other on this whole thing.
Kate Hudson's who you're looking for, by the way.
Yes, that's who it was, Kate Hudson. And so, of course, romantical hijinks ensue and they fall in love. And is this the one with Terry Bradshaw in it? Or is that a different one
No.
I'm thinking of? No, that's
no,
that's failure to launch.
Yep.
Did that one make our bracket?
It did not. No, unfortunately.
Okay. That's perfectly fine. That's another Kate Hudson one, isn't it?
No, Jessica Parker.
Anyway, romantical hijinks ensue, and they two actually wind up falling in love within 10 days.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
They sing You're So Vain.
Ah, yes, they do. So tell me about Crazy Rich Asians, Tyler.
So Crazy Rich Asians came out in 2018, starring Constance Wu, Henry Golding, and literally almost every Asian actor you can think of. Like when you watch it, you go, "Oh, hey, they're in here too." Ken Jeong is in here. Ronnie Chang. It's literally like it's amazing how many famous or slightly famous Asian actors they have in here. Like this is one of those movies where it's a cultural shift, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be in here because, there's the struggle for them because the main two characters, one comes from a lot of money, and the other one comes from no money at all. She's a public school teacher. She just wants to serve, and she thinks her fiance is down to earth, and as she's getting more into his world, she's like, "Do I know you at all?" And it's really interesting because there's a lot of Aquafina's in here too. I forgot about her. There's also a lot about like the difference between the rich as well, which is interesting. Like you have people in here that are like, yes, we are rich, but then they're like, oh no, that guy, they are rich. And so like there is some funny back and forth on those type of things. Because like Ken Jeong character is like, yes, I have money. They have money that dwarfs my money. So it's a really it's an adorable movie. B, it's a really good love story, and I love their relationship they have in here. I wish they would have released more because this is based off of a book. It's a trilogy book, so I wish they would have released more and we could see the whole franchise. But
I
I think
remember it
COVID
did
kind of
very
got in the way.
well. So
It did.
yeah.
So, but alas, it stands right now as just Crazy Rich Asians, and love does win at the end. So yeah. So
I
between
think we
How to Lose a
can
Guy in 10 Days, Brett,
safely
and
put that as the end for all of our summaries. Put me down for Crazy Rich Asians.
yep. All right. This one will be interesting for me, Brett. This might not be very interesting for you, but it will be fascinating for me. We have Blended, another Drew Barrymore, Adam Sandler movie, versus Anyone But You.
I don't know if I've seen either one of these.
I was going to say, do either of these movies ring a bell to you?
Blended does. I want to say I've seen the trailer for Anyone But You, but I know I haven't seen the movie.
That's okay.
Blended, I know I've seen the trailer for, but I don't think I've seen the movie.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and explain both of them because they're both from my list. Blended came out in 2014, which is the last time Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore worked together. And this is me officially stating that Drew Barrymore, Adam Sandler, you need to put out another movie. It's about time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this decade needs another Drew Barrymore, Adam Sandler movie.
It does.
There's a bunch of extra people in this movie. Kevin Neal, Wendy, how do you say her last name? Wendy McCullum Covey. I'm butchering that right now.
Oh yeah.
Incredibly funny.
Mm-hmm. She's on St. Denis Medical now.
Yes. Terry Crews plays one of the best random characters, just popping up going, they are blending together.
I love Terry.
It's one of those movies that as adults you appreciate of what it means to be a parent, what it means to, what does love look like when your heart is for other people? Your heart doesn't belong to you anymore. You can't be selfish in your pursuits of a relationship. So what does that look like? How can someone get closer to you? And for them, they became something for each other's kids that they could not be. And allowing them to have more balanced lives. Because when they meet, Adam Sandler has 3 girls, Drew Barrymore has 2 boys. The boys run roughshod over her life, and she has no control over them. And the girls are, for lack of better wording, treated as boys because he doesn't know how to be feminine. So trying to help each other through parenting, essentially, is what brings them together, and showing up for one another and their kids. Anyone But You is the most recent movie on our list. And one of the reasons it's on here is because we watched it and we loved it. And it's a great story of there is some raunchiness to it, I'll be honest. But it's a fun comedy. Stars Sydney Sweeney, Glenn Powell. Those 2 names are pretty popular right now.
Oh, that one. Okay.
They essentially go on a first date unintentionally, and then through some miscommunication, develop a hatred for one another. 2 people that are very close to them are about to get married. They both are going to the wedding. Hijinks ensues. People essentially try to push them together. Everything I'm describing about this movie makes you go, why would I want to watch this movie? But there's so much charm to it. There's a bunch of extra characters, extra people that you're like, hey, I know that person. I do recommend giving it a shot. It is funny. There is what is it? There is based on a Shakespeare play as well. Let me double check that. I heard something about that. Let me confirm. Yes, you and Shakespeare. Much Ado About Nothing.
Mm.
So, get a little Shakespeare in there in the 20, well, what is it now? 22s? No, 21st century still. But yeah, both movies, I will say I enjoy both of them. But Brett, for lack of better wording, if I have to pick one to watch over the other, I choose Blended.
That sounds like God probably picked that one too. They are blending together.
Yeah, I mean, side characters, Blended is better. I mean, I'll be honest, there's a steamy scene in Anyone But You that is much better than any steamy scene that is in Blended. But hey, I'm much more interested in a family comedy than I am raunchiness. So
There we go.
finally, Brett, and this round, this side of the bracket, we have the number 2 seed, and I am so bothered by this, Brett. I can't even communicate to you how annoyed I am that it's the number 2 seeded in this half of the bracket. In fact, Brett, do you want to know where it ranks with all of the movies?
Where?
Our number 2 for this half is also ranked. Oh, crap, where is it? Well, that's annoying. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's ranked 8th compared to all of the movies that we have. It's ridiculous. Top 10. You want to know what movie it is, Brett?
I do.
40-Year-Old Virgin. Because someone had it in their top 10. I'm not naming names, but it has a good score for Rotten Tomato. It has a good IMDb score all around. So, number 2, 40-Year-Old Virgin. And it's going up against 13 Going on 30. Brett, can you defend this RomCom being in our bracket?
I like that. That quotation marks. Okay, 40-year-old virgin follows Steve Carell's character. He is a 40-year-old virgin. He's never had sex. He works at an electronics store with a bunch of guys who clearly have and are pushing him to do so. He meets and falls in love with a single mother who he does, and at the heart of it all is a story of a man who has chosen to put that part of a relationship off until he has met someone that he feels is worth it, and who has felt that is not something that is necessary to this point in his life. He's not let that be something that drives his life. And he finally meets someone who he feels that is something he wants to share with her. And they are able to build a relationship and build a family through that.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
No.
13 Going on 30 stars Jennifer Gardner, Mark Ruffalo, Judy Greer, and before he was uber famous, Andy Serkis.
Okay, then. Mr. Motion Capture himself.
He played the boss of her company, so he was in a suit the whole time, I believe. But yeah, basically Jennifer Gardner's character is 13 years old, and she makes a wish to become 30 and flirty, and lo and behold, she somehow is in a magical closet, and she's transformed into Jennifer Gardner, and she tries to find her old best friend, who is now played by Mark Ruffalo. Hijinks ensues because Mark Ruffalo is engaged, and she's basically trying to live out the life that she knows, but for everyone else, it's that's old. That's what kids do. That's not what we do anymore. Um, there is some questionable things about this movie now, as I am an adult and I'm in my 30s, and appropriateness of the character, whether it being there or not. Um, but it's a fun throwback to a more innocent time, I'd say, and there's a nice dance scene as they do the Thriller dance. So it's a fun, lighthearted movie, and love wins at the end because she goes back in time and takes serious the boy who was always there for her.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brett, between the 40-year-old virgin and 13 going on 30, which one you going with?
Well, I've never seen it, but 13 going on 30 probably fits better with what we're going for, so I'll go with that one. I was very tempted to go with the 40-year-old virgin just to see if it could make it through the wheel.
I had a feeling. Brett, do you want to hop over to the other side of the bracket, or do you want to keep going with this one?
Let's go with this side and get down to our final contender on this side.
All right. So we'll get to the final four. We'll make it easier on us.
Right.
So we got number 1 seed Crazy Stupid Love. Brett, you ever see Crazy Stupid Love?
I did, yes.
Good. I thought so. We got Crazy Stupid Love versus He's Not That Into You. We already talked about He's Not That Into You, but Crazy Stupid Love stars Steve Carell, Julianne Moore, Emma Stone, Ryan Gosling. Kevin Bacon is in this movie as well. Basically, man and wife fall out of love with each other and have to discover who they are in their 40s. And we have a nice crossover of another love story of two people in their 20s. Well, late 20s, I guess you could say. But, an interesting back and forth and a nice ending, I will say, is the best way to put it. It kind of ends on we don't get a defined answer, but we see that love in a different way is really the thing that wins at the end. So, Brett, between Crazy Stupid Love and He's Not That Into You, which one do you think brings the real romantic comedy chops?
I'm going with Crazy Stupid Love.
Me too. It's number 1 for a reason.
Yes, it is.
All right. So to get us through then to the next round, Crazy Stupid Love will now go up against Wedding Crashers, Brett. So between Wedding Crashers and Crazy Stupid Love, which one are you going to pick?
I'll stick with Crazy Stupid Love.
As you should. All right. And get to the end of that side. We'll get to the Elite Eight over there. She's the Man versus 50 First Dates, Brett.
Oh, you got to go with 50 First Dates.
Exactly. All right. Here's where it gets fun. Fever Pitch versus Crazy Rich Asians. I mean, you break the curse of the Bambino, Brett. With this love story fixed Boston Red Sox.
I'm going with Fever Pitch.
Yeah, me too. I say Fever Pitch is one of the first movies that Sarah and I really connected on when we first started dating. So we'll always have a love for that movie. Brett, we got a Sophie's Choice here. Blended versus 13 going on 30.
I'll stick with Blended.
Me too. All right. So to get to our final four, Brett. Crazy Stupid Love versus 50 First Dates.
50 First Dates.
I'll go with Crazy Stupid Love so we can get the wheel involved.
All right. Let's bring the wheel in. Dun, 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 dun.
You know I want to share the wheel. Just let me share the wheel. All right, Brett, give me a countdown.
3, 2, 1. All right. 51st
Nice.
Dates it is.
I think having the more options helps make it a little more balanced.
Yeah. It does.
All right. Yeah, I have no complaints with that one. All right, Brett, to close out our Drew Barrymore for this half of the bracket, Fever Pitch versus Blended.
Oh, man. Fever Pitch.
Yep, Fever Pitch. Okay, so for our two that we'll have to battle out this side, we'll give us some time for us to kind of mull that one over, but it's literally Drew Barrymore versus Drew Barrymore. So it's really Adam Sandler and Jimmy Fallon. Did you remember when they were promoting Blended, and they were both on Jimmy Fallon, and they were singing a song, like a duet with each other, and he's like, "You're my favorite on-screen husband," and Jimmy Fallon was like, "What about me?" She goes, "You both have great qualities."
I don't remember that. No.
That's okay. All right, so Brett, we'll get to the pre-millennium bracket. We're leading up to the millennium, I guess you could say.
All right.
Number 1 seed over here, we have, Brett, no surprise, The Princess Bride.
No surprise there.
Yep. So fighting it out to face The Princess Bride, Brett, we have Overboard, and we have Miss Congeniality.
Mm-hmm.
Brett, would you like to describe these movies, one of them?
All right. I'm assuming this is the Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn Overboard.
Yes.
I'll take that one. Pull it up on IMDb here so I can remember.
I understand. I've just been pulling it up each time just so I'm like, okay, I want to make sure I'm getting the people correct.
Yeah. So with Overboard, you've got Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, of course. Goldie's character is married, she's wealthy, pretentious, lives aboard her yacht.
She's married to Gilmore.
Yeah, she is. Lives off her family's money. And they treat others horribly. And so the yacht gets moored in Elk Cove, Oregon. And they hire this local carpenter to do some work. And then they want to stiffen the money for the job when it doesn't meet what she wanted, despite her not specifying the issue to him. And so they set sail out. She falls overboard and develops temporary amnesia. And her husband decides to ditch her. When news of this Jane Doe hits the local news, and Dean sees the person he knows as Kurt Russell's character sees her husband denying that he knows her. He decides to make her his housemaid, claims to be her husband, and makes her his housemaid, basically turning the tables on her. For about a month, which he considers the equivalent of be what she owes him. It's kind of rough, but
yep, it was the 80s, man.
He eventually has second thoughts about what he's doing, but because he's falling in love with her, and she seems to be doing the same to him. Yeah. So, Tyler, what about
Miss Congeniality? This is one of my favorite rom-coms of all time, I'll be honest. Stars Sandra Bullock. Michael Caine, Benjamin Brett, Candice Bergen again. Also, William Shatner's in this movie. He gives he has a little song, quote unquote, he does where he kind of talks through it.
That's how the Shat sings.
It's such a fun movie. Just she starts off all not well taken care of and not feeling worth it, and they do a transformation at some point to make her look like Sandra Bullock, and she ends up she's an FBI agent who goes undercover at the Miss USA pageant, and the Miss America pageant, sorry, and she ends up befriending all of the girls and gets really close to them and is very protective of them. Michael Caine is so funny in this movie. Like, outside of The Muppets Christmas Carol, Brett, this is the movie I think of when the first time I watched Michael Caine in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And when Batman Begins was released and I saw the trailer, I went, hey, it's the guy from Miss Congeniality.
Oh my.
Just remember, Brett, it's all in the buttocks. It's all in the buttocks. Don't I look pretty? Now glide.
There you go.
Yeah, such a good movie. Love wins at the end, and friendship love also wins at the end, Brett. I'll add that too.
Yes, it does.
So, Brett, between Overboard and Miss Congeniality, which one would you like to vote for? I'll go first and say Miss Congeniality. So,
I'm going to agree with you.
figured. All right. We got a Kelly special, as I'm going to refer to it, Brett. We have My Best Friend's Wedding versus Wedding Singer. Man, another wedding versus wedding.
Oh, yes.
We got the My Best Friend's Wedding versus the Wedding Singer, Brett. Which one would you like to talk about?
I'll talk about the Wedding Singer because this is this one's ranks pretty high on my list too. So we got Adam Sandler playing Robbie Hart, big time wedding singer in the 80s, which is when the movie takes place. And he likes to bring the hits at the wedding celebrations. And where at one of these celebrations he meets Julia, played by Drew Barrymore, who's a waitress. They meet, they have a meet cute. He falls for her and finds out that she's actually engaged to a rather pompous windbag. And he goes through a little heartbreak, but in the end, love wins out.
Yep. So we got My Best Friend's Wedding. Julia Roberts plays the lead with Dermot Mulroney, Cameron Diaz. Cameron Diaz and Dermot Mulroney are actually the ones getting married. Julia Roberts realizes that she actually is in love with the man and has to stop their wedding. However, the more she gets to know the bride, the more she likes her, and the more conflict she has over should she actually be doing this? Should she be confessing her love for her best friend? I'll be honest with you, I never watched this movie. I've never really had a need to watch this movie. But again, from the podcast I enjoyed listening to before, the question does come up of, if you're in a bread car chasing him as he chases her, who's chasing you? That's going to live on with me forever, Brett. Who's chasing you? So, Brett, between My Best Friend's Wedding and The Wedding Singer, which one are you going to go with? Wedding Singer. Okay.
Wedding Singer. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen My Best Friend's Wedding. I know I've seen the trailer many times.
Yeah. All right, Brett. How about Clueless versus When Harry Met Sally?
Ooh. I'll take Clueless.
All
right. So in Clueless, you've got Cher, who is very upper crust valley girl.
As if.
Ew. And she is just realizing that I'm trying to mix details here. But anyway, her father is this big time lawyer. I've got to close this window. The trailer for Wedding Singer started to autoplay in front of me while I'm talking. I'm getting distracted. But anyway, her father's a big time lawyer. She has her friends, including Donald Faison, who goes on to play Turk in one of my favorite shows of all time, Scrubs. And they do typical Valley Girl things. And also Paul Rudd in a very young Paul Rudd role, who is her step brother, I believe. Yes.
Yep, I believe so too.
Yeah. Who, oddly enough, she kind of falls for.
Yep.
Which is the romantic part of the movie.
Yep.
Yeah. And Cher uses her Valley Girl skills to help Daddy out on a case, and builds a romantic rapport with her stepbrother, and goes on to do Valley Girl things.
Mm-hmm.
So Tyler, tell me about When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, When Harry Met Sally is a Rob Reiner movie starring Billy Crystal, Meg Ryan, Carrie Fisher. Classic 80s comedy where two young people meet, and Billy Crystal's character makes it very clear men and women, they can't be friends because they're always going to want to sleep with each other. And she thinks that's ridiculous. And they kind of just they keep meeting each other over the years. They're kind of in the same community, and they kind of just at chance will see each other. They'll be kind of friendly with each other, but they're always dating someone else. And then at one point, they're not dating anyone. They kind of just start talking to each other, and it leads to them, getting in the way of one another. And then we have the famous last scene of the movie. It's New Year's Eve, and he's saying when you want to spend the rest of your life with someone, you want to start right away. And classic movie. There's another classic scene to this movie, and I don't want to talk about it, Brett, and you can't make me.
It was aped for a Super Bowl commercial this year.
It was rated R for a good reason, though.
Yes.
So Brett, between these two choices, I personally am going to go with When Harry Met Sally.
I'm going to as well.
I had a feeling. All right, Brett. Let's get a little crazy now.
Ooh, crazy.
How about Return to Me versus That Thing You Do?
Ooh.
Brett, I'm requesting to talk about That Thing You Do.
Oh, that's fine, because I'll talk about Return to Me then.
Perfect. See, That Thing You Do, I've been saying for years now, and my wife can attest to this. This is a rom-com. Because yes, there is the element of the music, and that song gets stuck in your head, but the relationship between Liv Tyler's character, Faye, and Tom Everett Scott's Guy, it's a beautiful relationship. It's a friendship first, Brett. It's one where the two of them connect as human beings first. They're both in different relationships, and eventually, when she finally, steps away from the boy who she realizes never really appreciated her, he's able to swoop in and make clear of, yeah, I recognize you, I see you, and I love you as you. Actually is written and directed by Tom Hanks, and he's also in it. It's a good classic movie. It's also based out of Erie, Pennsylvania, a place that we know and are very familiar with. But it's set in the let me double check, but I believe it's set in the early 60s. Yep, 64. So, a couple crazy kids from Erie, Pennsylvania in the 60s, Brett, trying to make it big.
All right. Well, with Return to Me, you have David Duchovny and Minnie Driver are the two leads, but David Duchovny is married to someone else in the very beginning. The movie starts out with them getting ready for an important fundraising dinner, and very soon that night ends with his wife dying. Yes, her heart winds up being used in a transplant to another young woman who is in desperate need of a heart. And after a long time of David's character grieving and throwing himself into his work, his friends decide to try and help him to move on, pry him away by setting up with a bunch of blind dates. And he finally shows up for one, and he actually finds himself more attracted to the waitress than to his date, and makes an excuse to go back later, and eventually discovers that the the waitress he was attracted to is actually the young woman who received his wife's heart. And so they have to figure out, what do we do with this information? Do we go forward? What do we do with this? But in the end, love wins the day. It's actually one of Kelly's favorite movies of all time. It was one of the first rom-coms we watched together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Brett, which of these two are you going with?
I'm going to go with Return to Me.
Okay.
So
Fair.
I think we're going to be bringing the wheel out, because I'm pretty sure you're going with That Thing You Do.
That Thing You Do is one of our personal favorites. So, yeah, we're going to the wheel. All right. There we go. Spin that wheel. Watch that logo spin.
Oh, man, it makes me dizzy.
Come on. Yeah.
Ah! Tell you that much.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but seriously, how do you feel about watching our logo spin around like that? Like, it's a little disorienting.
It is. It makes me a little bit dizzy. I I try to focus on the guys on the side there, because they're not nearly as disorienting.
I was like, I put that in the middle. I was like, oh boy, I don't know how to feel about that. Well, let's see what happens.
If it wasn't so big, it might not be so disorienting.
I wonder about that too. We could always mess with it and see how it goes. But yeah, it's ridiculous. Okay, let me. Well, in honor of you and Kelly, I will go ahead and watch that, because I have not watched that one.
It's a good one.
As I went through, I realized a lot of the ones that I would be interested in watching to see if I could give an honest review of and put a thought to, it was by favorites, and I was like, yeah, there's no point. It doesn't matter how much I might like it. I'm not voting against it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's streaming anywhere. That might be one you have to check out of the library or something.
Yeah, fair. All right, Brett, we have Say Anything versus Love and Basketball.
Oh, I take that back. Take that back. It's on Tubi and Pluto both. Oh, and Amazon Prime. And the Roku channel. Okay, Say Anything and Love and Basketball?
Yep.
Oof.
I can talk about Love and Basketball.
Okay, I'll talk about Say Anything.
Okay.
Let me bring it up here. Okay, so John Cusack, those of you who are familiar with cinema at all will recognize Say Anything as a movie where John Cusack stands outside of a window with a boombox held above his head. Say Anything is it's also the Doppler Dahmer. If you've ever watched How I Met Your Mother, and they try to make the differentiation between Doppler and Dahmer. Yeah. Lloyd Dobler wants nothing more than to go out with beautiful and intelligent Diane Court, and Lloyd attempts to win her heart over the objections of her overprotective father before Diane leaves for a scholarship in England. Hence, things like standing outside her window with a boombox above his head. Ah, yes. It's the
Yes.
classic tale of a guy who wants to, who really wants to, the guy who just keeps trying. Is it cute or is it creepy? Basically, the type of question you have to ask yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, love wins.
Fair. Love and Basketball stars, or it's written and directed by Gina Prince Bywood. Starring, I'm gonna butcher her name, and I do apologize, but Sana Lathan, yeah, Sanaya Lathan, I think, and Omar Epps. Let's see, there's a couple other famous. Alfredo Woodward. There's another important person that I'm blanking on right now. Oh, Gabrielle Union's in this. Wow. There are a lot of people in this that you will recognize. A lot of really good actors in this movie. Basically, it's a story about two young people who meet each other as kids, and they both love basketball. And the young lady, she might be a little bit better than the boy, and he doesn't know how to handle that. So he avoids playing basketball with her. And the two of them, they have this relationship where they're able just to be safe with each other throughout their whole childhood, throughout their high school years, because it kind of paints pictures of their lives as they go along. It's their kids when they meet, high school, they're seniors, and then they go to when they're in school together as freshmen, and then it jumps to them being adults. And so each time as they're jumping around, as they're going different places, it's them trying to grow individually, grow in their sport, grow in their relationship, and what does that look like, and the complications that come through that, and some of the pratfalls that you fall into. And so it's a really good story, and it's one of those that I think you randomly catch it here and there, but when you actually sit down and watch the whole thing, it's truly a wonderful watch, and one that really brings to mind of what is your love for your sport, what is your love for another human being, and how can those things coexist together. So highly, highly, highly recommend. So Brett, I'm going to go with Love and Basketball. What are you going with?
I'm going with Love and Basketball as well.
Nice. All right, Brett, our final combatants of the first round. We got Pretty Woman. That's classic, very PG, very child-friendly story.
Oh, yes.
Going up against 10 Things I Hate About You, our number 2 seed. All together, number 2 seed.
All right.
So, Brett, which would you like to talk about?
I'll take 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah, of course you will. Fine.
Of course
I'm
I
talking
will.
first then.
All right.
Pretty Woman.
Hey, 10 Things was another one of Kelly's favorites, so I'll take that one.
Yeah, it's also one of Kelly's is on here. This is truly Kelly's route. She should be the one to decide this. Wake her up.
I know, but Pretty Woman was one of the things that I was throwing out to her after she was struggling to come up with anything after 3.
Yeah, so Pretty Woman stars Julia Roberts, Richard Gere. Richard Gere is a well too off man who basically will he will buy a company, strip it for parts, and sell everything off and make money that way. Let's just call it what every rich person does now. So anywho, he gets a lady of the night in Julia Roberts. This is before she is America's sweetheart. This is before Ready to Run, or Runaway Bride. The two of them agree upon a price, for lack of better wording, for her to agree to accompany him basically wherever he goes over the next couple of days. And the two of them, through this moment, realize that they're in love, Brett. And the classic moment where he goes to her apartment of the fire emergency exit, and he goes, "What happens now?" After he rescues her, and she rescues him right back. So a classic movie in the rom-com genre, Brett. And it's one that gets quoted a lot, and people try to forget that she is a lady of the night.
Yes, they do. Well, with 10 Things I Hate About You, this is a very popular rendition of Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew. Kind of funny how many rom-coms are takes on Shakespeare plays.
Yeah.
We have Cameron, who falls for a student at his new school who turns out to be one of two sisters that his father or her father will not let them date. Well, he changes his
Womp
mind
womp.
and says, yes, womp womp, as even my 10-year-old likes to say. And, he changed his mind. Well, she can date as long as her older sister, who drives boys away like they're the plague, dates as well. And so Cameron decides he's going to try and enlist, what's his name? Joey, who is played by Heath Ledger in some great acting there.
Heath Ledger.
Too young. And, some say he ate a live duck once, other that he lit a state trooper on fire and other things. He's got this mystique to him. And he actually gets paid to take her out. And, hijinks ensue. She finds out that, or not Joey, sorry, Patrick is his character's name. She finds out that he was not really interested in the start. She, after she was falling for him, and it's all of this comes up to it. It all hits the fan, but in the end, love does win for both couples.
I just have to make sure that we quote right now, Brett, of Walter, the dad, as he greets Catherine. "Hello, Catherine. Make anyone cry today?"
Yes.
And then before they go to the party, "All right, wait a minute. No drinking, no drugs, no kissing, no tattoos, no piercings, no ritual animal slaughters of any kind."
Oh, yes. And
oh my God, I'm giving them ideas.
Kat's response, sadly, no, but it's only 4:30.
10 Things I Hate About You, Brett, clearly is going to move
hands
on.
down, yes.
Yes. So we can quickly, because I messed up on this bracket a little bit. So 10 Things I Hate About You is technically already in the top 8. I thought that was fair, only because of some of the other things that were going to come up and try to battle it to get going. So if I had done this right, I wouldn't have done that, but I'm okay with it.
Okay. I'm all right
so
with that.
let's get we're gonna go with Love and Basketball versus That Thing You Do, Brett.
I'll go with That Thing You Do.
Yep. Doing
that thing you do. Da, da, da.
All right. So we'll do That Thing You Do, Brett, versus 10 Things I Hate About You.
10 Things.
Yep. There are so many love stories in That Thing You Do that is just not fair. All right. We're going to go back to the top of the bracket, Brett, over to The Princess Bride. Is finally going to get a chance to compete. The Princess Bride is going up against Miss Congeniality. She's a nice lady, Brett, but she don't stand a chance. Princess Bride.
Yeah, Princess Bride.
All right. And then we got okay. We got When Harry Met Sally, Brett versus The Wedding Singer.
This was not too hard for me. The Wedding Singer.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
I mean, When Harry Met Sally is a classic, but so is The Wedding Singer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but I mean, the scene on the plane, Brett. The scene on the plane. That song.
Yes. I wanna grow old with you.
That song still makes people cry, Brett.
It does. And hey, you have rapping Granny.
I will say I love whenever they're in the parking lot and they're testing to see if his friend is going to be the driver, and she's like, "So how much more are you going to make him do?" I don't know. He's already got the job.
Yeah.
All right. So to get us to where we need to be, Brett, you got The Princess Bride versus The Wedding Singer.
You know, it's classic, but I'm still going Wedding Singer over it.
Well, let's just go to the wheel. And just in case this is the last time we get to talk about this movie, I will always argue that Princess Bride is a rom-com, Brett. There is only one romance, but there is a lot of love in this
There is.
movie. Friendship, love, love between grandfather and grandson, and but love does conquer all in the end. So
spin that wheel.
There we go.
Ooh, looking at the little guys.
Wow.
Oh.
Just barely. Brett, can I do something controversial?
Yes, you may.
I'm gonna choose that we should let The Wedding Singer move on.
Really? What changed your mind?
Yeah. No, I'm not really changing my mind. It's mostly just when I look at the two of them and I think about the rom and the com, Brett. I love The Princess Bride a lot. It's one of our personal favorites, but if there's a true, romantic story that I want to go up against something like 10 Things I Hate About You, it's The Wedding Singer. So as happy as I am to win the wheel, I'm willing to forego the win.
All right.
I made it a slight adjustment. It might make it a little easier to deal with the center.
All right.
All right. Okay, so Wedding Singer is going to move on. All right, so we'll go back to the original bracket, Brett. We got 10 things. We got 50 First Dates versus Fever Pitch. Brett, since these are the final four, we can spend at least a minute or two talking about them a little bit more. Brett, tell me what's a scene from 50 First Dates that when you think of that movie, this is the scene you think of?
I think of it's a quiet one, but it's when Drew's character's dad and her brother are going out to paint over the mural every night. And it's a very they're in on the deal that she is that what's going on with her, but it's what they have to do every day or every night to set up what's going on with her every day, that she gets up and she resets, and that's the reality that Adam's coming into with her, and that's the uphill battle that he's working against to try and get her to fall in love with him each and every day.
Mm-hmm.
And her dad's taking a picture of every mural she's painting on that wall.
Yep. I get that. It's a beautiful scene, honestly. For me, it'll always be the scene when he unwraps the gift and he's on his boat, and he's like, "Ah, the Beach Boys. What a nice gift that will remind me of his daughter. What an a-hole." And then the next scene is him crying, listening to the Beach Boys. It gets me every time, and both the feels and the funnies. Brett, Pitch Perfect. What scene comes to mind when you think of that movie?
It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's probably just them sitting in the stadium getting to experience the atmosphere together. It really captures the mood of the movie for me. She's kind of coming into his world for real. Like she's seen him and gotten to know him in the off season, and now she's really getting to know the rest of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love the first time they try to go on a date and she's sick and she just full blown barfs everywhere. And this guy has the choice of, well, I could leave her with vomit everywhere, or I can do the decent thing, go clean that up, make sure she's okay, and just, treat her like a person. I always love that scene because it's outside of the fact that there is romantic interest between the two of them. It's the fact that he was like, well, this isn't a real date, but this woman is in need and I could be a decent guy. This Ted Mosby is what a nice guy is.
Yes, exactly. This is who Ted Mosby should be.
Yes. It's what Eric Marshall would do, that's for sure. Marshall Erickson, I mean, sorry.
I got you.
Brett, between these two Drew Barrymore movies, also, by the way, fun fact, this Pitch Perfect is the movie that Jimmy Fallon met his wife.
Extra Love.
Extra Love. So, Brett, between the Sox finally breaking the curse, Jimmy Fallon finding his bride, and Adam Sandler realizing, hey, why make movies on the main parts of America when I can go to somewhere tropical? Which movie are you going with?
It's a toughie. I'm going to go Fever Pitch.
Brett? I'm going Fever Pitch too. As a matter of fact, I think there needs to be a follow-up Fever Pitch where it's a few years later and now she's dealing with boys that are obsessed with the Red Sox, and how does she deal with that?
Yes.
So
I would watch that movie.
Brett, we got The Wedding Singer versus 10 Things I Hate About You. I don't know about you, but The Wedding Singer, when I think of that movie, I always think of the airplane scene. It's the song I think of. It's the things he puts into that song that are about the things that she is concerned and worried about. And it's the fact that he wants to be the man who is actually good to her. And, again, what Ted Mosby should have been.
Yeah. Man, Ted's taking a beating tonight.
Ted should always take a beating.
He should. He really should. Yeah, that one is really the standout for me as well. I'll also throw out there Robbie in the Middle of His Heartache, where his song about his heartache is another really stark one that just stands out as it's so raw, that whole scene. Bonus points for rapping grandma.
10 Things I Hate About You, Brett. This is what I'll call the perfect 2000s classic, Let's throw out another musical scene where he sings to her, I love you, baby.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I probably saw first Not Another Teen Movie when Chris Evans' character sings to
He's got a
a
gun.
girl. Yes, Janie's got a gun. And it's just the exact opposite of what this scene is, where this scene is super
Yeah.
romantic and adorable. And in that one, it's purely there for comedy. And
Yeah, it's all spoof there.
I really wanted to put it on here because I wanted Chris Evans to be represented, but I couldn't justify it.
No.
But yeah, the scene where he sings to her and then they go on the cute paint fight date is just adorable. Also, the friends deciding to go Shakespeare to their prom is also quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
So
I think the one that really stands out for me is Kat's letter that she reads to him. That
one
always grabs me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a really good one. Brett, I don't know about you, but I got to go 10 Things.
That's where I'm leaning too. I love The Wedding Singer, but I think 10 Things is just there.
All right, Brett, here we go. Our finals. It always takes forever to get through the first couple of rounds, but man,
those last
really start
couple
cooking
ones
after a
fly.
while. 10 Things I Hate About You, Brett versus Fever Pitch. Probably two that people wouldn't have picked, but by gum.
That's not necessarily how I thought this bracket would have shaken out myself, but hey, here we are.
Yeah. Brett, is there anything you want to say about either one of these movies that we haven't already said?
No. I think I think I've said as much as I need to about these ones. What about you?
That's fair. No, I'm pretty comfortable. I mean, both of these movies, in the realm of the romanticness, the comediness, they're both very even out. One is two adults figuring out their love stories, and the other one is high school, end of high school love, and are half of the people going to be together? No. But, maybe it doesn't work out for our two lovebirds as well. Who knows? At the end of the day, both of the stories are about growing up in different ways, and both of these stories are, a great watch anytime. And if I'm going first, Brett, and I'm willing to go first,
Have at it.
if I have to pick one of these two movies, 9 out of 10 times, probably 8 out of 10 times, I'm picking Fever Pitch.
Yeah, and I've got to decide whether I want to go based on the amount of love and romance that's represented or the type that's represented.
It's fair. I mean, you could always say 10 things and then we can spin the wheel one last time.
Yeah, I could, but I don't want to leave it up to chance, though. That's the thing. But I like the maturity that gets shown in Fever Pitch. That they have to work through that with maturity. Not that they don't have maturity in 10 Things, but I think I'm gonna agree with you on Fever Pitch.
Well, just for kicks and giggles, let's get the wheel out one last time. Mostly so you can see how I adjusted it, so that way it's a little easier on the eyes.
You put yourself in the middle.
Well, it's either me or you. So let's just spin just for funs. Look at me spin.
That is easier on the eyes. It would have been Fever Pitch anyway.
Oh, wow. Well, Brett.
I think that would have been 3 in a row for you.
Yeah. Fever Pitch.
I think this roulette wheel is weighted.
You're only saying that because my face was on the last one.
No, because it was 3 in a row.
I was just looking at if there's any statistics on what was happening, but Brett, that is our bracket. How do you feel about it?
I'm feeling good about it. Like I said, I didn't think that's how the top two would shake out when we started, but I'm all right with it. I like our champion there.
Yep. Well, join us next time, good-looking people, as we talk about Fever Pitch. Just kidding.
Good looking people, you can check us out all over the web at Dads Meet World across social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, and on YouTube, same handle at Dads Meet World if you're not already watching us there. You can also send us an email, dadsmeetworld@gmail.com, and pick up some Dads Meet World swag, dadsmeetworld.threadless.com.
Yeah.
And
Tell us what you think of our bracket and if we did a good job. And
exactly.
Hey, do you disagree with us?
Yeah, which movie do you think should have been our champion if you don't agree with Fever Pitch? Because I'm sure there's some of you out there that disagree with us, because that's just the nature of brackets.
Yeah. You're wrong.
Yeah, there you go. But tell us anyway. So until next time, I'll see you, good looking.
Back to you, good looking.
You know, how can I learn so much every week and still be so stupid? Was that duckies? No, garbage. I want to be normal, spud.
We are the Timmers.
Read the Bible.
This is good TV. Dads Meet World is a production of Headfirst Studios. Headfirst Studios. Tell your story.